This is a C programming question here. They have given us this particular code snippet and they are asking the value printed by the program is dash. We need to find out what the value would be that is printed by this program. So let's take a look at this program here. So in the main function we are declaring an integer array of size 5, that is 3, 5, 2, 6, 4. So the array will look like this, 3, 5, 2, 6, 4, and A is the name of the array, meaning A will be pointing to the starting address of the array. Okay, and then we are printing %d, which will be the return value of the function f a comma 5. Now we are passing A to this pointer P. Now A and P will be the same thing because A was the starting address of the array here, right? So P will also be now contain the same address as the starting address of this array, which means that A and P are now pointing to the same array only. They are pointing to the beginning of the array. Now if P is pointing to the beginning of the array, P plus 1 will also be a pointer pointing to the first element of the array. P plus 2 will point to the second element of the array, etc. Now let us look at this function. To the function we are passing the array and an integer n. Now we see n is 5 here, so n is the size of the array. So an array and the size of the array we are passing here. If n is less than or equal to 1, return 0, else return max of f p plus 1 comma n minus 1 or comma p of 0 minus p of 1. Now let's take a look at this function here. In the question they are given us that max xy returns maximum of x and y. So calling this function will return the maximum of the value of this function, again called recursively with a different set of parameters, and the value of p of 0 minus p of 1. It will return the maximum of these two. Okay. Now let us see how this function will proceed. So initially we are calling the function with the starting address of the array as a of 0, where p was pointing to a of 0 and n was 5 initially, meaning that the array indices, the range of the array was starting from array a of 0 up to a of 4. The array of size 5 like this was passed initially, and then we are returning maximum of this function called again, comma p of 0 minus p of 1. Now what happens when this function f is called again? When f is called again with a new pointer p plus 1. Now p plus 1 will be a pointer pointing to the first element in the array, and n is being passed as 5 minus 1, that will be 4 here. So essentially we are passing, initially to the function we are passing this array of size 5. Now we are passing this array of size 4, since n became 4 and the starting address also became this. So essentially the second time when we are calling the function we are passing this particular array. Now when we are passing this array, again it comes here and then it will compute the maximum of, again that function is being called recursively, comma p of 0 minus p of 1. Now what is p of 0 minus p of 1? In the first function we are calling f, we passed f p plus 1 to this function. Now this is passed by value, which means that when the second time this function is running, the p value will be pointing to this one, since p plus 1 from the first call was passed to p in the second call of the function, meaning in the second call of the function, that is where we had this array, p is pointing to the starting address of the first element or the starting address of this element 5. So in this function when we are doing p of 0 minus p of 1, it essentially means this element minus this element. Now this was actually p of 1 in the original function, right? So I will just write it like this. It is again calling max f with p of 1 minus p of 2 here. Now again we are calling this function recursively, and this time we are passing this pointer, whatever p we had, that plus 1. Essentially we will be passing this pointer only to the third iteration, to the third call of the function. Okay, and n will be again reduced by 1, so 4 minus 1 will be 3. So essentially in the third time when we are calling, we will be passing this particular array to that function, and in that p of 0 minus p of 1 will essentially mean p of 2 minus p of 3 in that original array, original full array we have. So which means first we are passing the entire array 0 to 4. We are calculating max of f, comma p of 0 minus p of 1. Inside this f we are passing the array 1 to 4, and we are calculating max of again f, comma p of 1 minus p of 2. Inside this function we are passing the array 2 to 4 and we are again calculating max of f called again comma p of 2 minus p of 3. Inside this we are again passing the array 3 to 4 and we are again doing max of f comma p of 3 minus p of 4, and inside this function we are passing the array 4 to 4. Basically we are only passing this one element. So at that point n will become 1. So if n is less than or equal to 1, the return value will be 0. So at this point we will directly return 0 from the function f, which means coming back to this function the value here will be 0 comma p of 3 minus p of 4. Okay, maximum p of 3 minus p of 4 is 6 minus 4, that is 2. So the maximum of these two will be 2. That 2 will be passed to this function. So here we got 0 and this was 2. Maximum of 0 and 2 is 2 only. So coming to this part, the value returned will be 2. P of 2 minus p of 3 is minus 4. Maximum of 2 and minus 4 is 2 only. So coming to this function, the value returned here will be 2 only. P of 1 minus p of 2 is 5 minus 2, that is 3. Now the maximum of 2 and 3 will be 3, which is returned here. They will have 3. P of 0 minus p of 1 is minus 2. Max of 3 and minus 2 is 3. Now that will be returned at this point. Now that's the final return value, which is 3. 3 is the answer.